Very good morning to all my dear friends. I am Prashant Mahoney. I hope you all are doing good, and I warmly welcome all of you to Study IQ. The quote that we have today, positive one: the greatest evil that can befall man is that he should come to think ill of himself. We know that we face lots and lots of criticism from different people around us. I'm sure you have someone you know that is constantly engaged in criticizing people, passing negative comments and things like that. But the sad portion is that if you seriously accept all these criticisms, the thing is, at the end of the day, it is up to you whether you accept those things or whether you reject them. If you accept them, and after that, if you start thinking ill of yourself, then this is the biggest sin or biggest evil that will take place with you, because then gradually you will lose confidence in yourself, and everything will go wrong from there. With this, dear friends, Study IQ provides pen drive and tablet courses for different exams. The good thing is that up to 40% discount is available at present. This is going to end with the end of this year. If you haven't got our pen drive and tablet courses yet, then I would recommend to get it as soon as possible. With this, you will also find SSC test series and other test series on our portal. Let me tell you that from 2018, the price of our pen drive and tablet courses and other items are going to go up, so this is a best time for you to invest in yourself. With this, the first item that we have is a very sad thing coming from financial capital of our country, Mumbai, right? We consider Mumbai, or the India or the world considers Mumbai as a very, you can say, famous city, as well as it is modern as well. Of course, we have paradox here. You have biggest houses, and you have or you can say posh houses. At the same time, you have slums in Mumbai as well. Anyways, the main topic here is not about this paradox. The main topic here, or the main point of discussion here, is the loss of life that took place in a restaurant in Mumbai because of fire. 14 people have lost their life, and many families, right, they have lost their loved ones. This is not the first time. In last week, 12 migrants, light laborers, they lost their lives as well in a fire. And this indicates that we are very vulnerable to this fires that are taking place, rampant fires, I would rather say. And it is not only in Mumbai. If you see the firework factories, right, this firecracker factories, then a couple of years ago, many small children, right, they were basically, first thing was that child labor, which is illegal. It was practiced over there. The second thing is that we find every year incident of fire taking place in these factories, in firecracker factories, and also in restaurants and buildings as well. And this indicates, right, or if you sincerely think, or if you think about it, then you will find that no one is safe from this thing. Imagine that we are out with our family, with our loved ones, and if we are enjoying a meal in a restaurant, and suddenly you find that there is ruckus, and or this can take place in theaters as well. In 1997, something like this took place in Upahar Cinema, in which 59 people lost their life. And we have not, sadly, the government has not learned anything out of it at all. That's what it looks like. Now, talking about this safety, or you can say health and safety, or safe exit or fire exits, right? If you go to a developed country, then you will find that they have this strict laws, right? If you enter any building, right, whether it be private building, whether it is any shop, or whether you enter into any complex, right, shopping complex or other places, then you will find that you will find clear signs of fire exit. And this is not only for fire, just in case if anything goes wrong during earthquake or any sort of, nowadays we also face this terror attacks as well. So you have a safe exit, right, and the doors are designed in such a way that it cannot be closed from outside. It can be easily opened from inside. All you have to do is push it. The size of the door is also quite wide, so at one point of time many people can exit it. So these are the things. Apart from that, we also know this thing that in buildings where you have people entering and exiting a building or a busy place should have some safety gears as well, like fire extinguisher and things like that. Particularly for restaurant, in the kitchens, in the dining area, they should have all these things, isn't it? Even if we don't have rules, just to think about health and safety, we need all these things. But do we actually find this sort of things? I have seen many times in petrol stations or petrol pumps as well, that their fire extinguishers are out of date. They have to change it after every say for example 6 months or 1 year, God forbid, and that's what we want, that we never want to use them, or we never face a situation in which we have to use them, but still we need to ensure that whenever, just in case if we have to use them, they are in usable condition. So assessing a fire professionally, right, there are methods of building. There are some ways or protocols, and if you want to go through, or professionally if you want to ensure that everything is under control when it comes to fire, then we should have a sort of the design of the buildings should be created in such a way that just in case if there is any sort of incident, then the building does not collapse. Then you should have this exit gate and things like that, so the people can escape this scenario. At the same time, firefighters should be able to access the building as well. This sort of designs are available. The only thing is that it is not implemented. The other thing is that we need, of course, impartial inquiry in this case. And the most important line that I find in this editorial is that we have to identify the officials who allowed all this, you can say, you can running around, or you can bypassing these rules and regulations, right? So all those officials who took whatever they could, like corruption, or whether they were doing some sort of favor or anything, they should be identified and they should be punished as well. We have to fix accountability of owners, managers and official agencies, right? Punishment for those guilty of breaking laws, exemplary compensation. You give 2 lakh, 1 lakh rupees, that is not going to help at all. Of course, when we lose someone from our family, no money can bring them back. But all these businesses or any building or any organization who are breaking this sort of laws, they should be made to pay. They should be made to bleed, right? They should be made to pay exemplary compensation, so that next time someone else will learn lesson from them. And of course, zero tolerance when it comes to enforcement of safety requirements. The problem is that in our country, the biggest challenge is you appoint some people to ensure that they are, these businesses or other premises, they are following these rules and regulations. But what happens is that when they visit this place, they take some money. And I'm not saying everyone, but this thing happens, and we all know about this thing. I'm sure you know about this thing as well. So they are being provided with some sort of corruption or some money, right, cash on hand, and things are or the checklist will get all these green tick marks. That is a very sad thing. But this is a good, you can say, a good point, or we are standing at a place where we have to set an example. We have to identify the officials, and we have to ensure that they are punished. Apart from that, the courts, right, many a times Supreme Court, different high courts, they have issued many orders, but they are not taken seriously by the government. Many of them are just on papers. Say for example, road safety, right? Many things are still lagging, and this everything, like all this sort of incidents indicates that our life has little value, right? Indians, like, it should worry us that the lives of Indians seem to be of little value. Imagine the same scenario taking place in USA or France or Germany or UK or other country, Australia. It could lead to change of government as well. But here we have developed a habit of forgetting this sort of things, and we don't take this thing seriously, that it could be us as well. We could have been victim, or our family member could have been victim of this incident. No one is safe from this sort of incidents. With this, dear friends, the second item that we have is about Spain and Catalonia. Let's see which part of the world we are talking about. This is the country of Spain here that you can see on your screen. The capital of Spain is Madrid. This whole portion, this grey portion, is known as Iberian Peninsula because it is covered by water from 3 different sides. You have Bay of Biscay, you have Atlantic Ocean here, and you have Mediterranean Sea. Here is Africa, and a strait that is dividing, or that is separating this Europe from African continent is the Strait of Gibraltar, which is here. This is called the Strait of Gibraltar here, from where you can enter and exit Mediterranean Sea, or you can enter and exit Atlantic Ocean. Right, so that's basically about this portion. Now let's see what Barcelona or what Catalonia is all about. See this portion here, I'll show you here, this bit here, this portion here is Catalonia. The capital of Catalonia is Barcelona. I'm sure football fans, you know exactly the rivalry between Madrid and Barcelona. The capital of Spain is Madrid, and the capital of this state or province of Spain called Catalonia is Barcelona. Now, this state or province is a bit different than what we understand state in our country, India, because if you go back, right, then you find you have recorded history of 1,000 plus years of people of Catalonia. They have their own language, they have their own way of life, their own, you can say, culture and things. They have, when we talk about political system, then they have their independent parliament, right? So you have basically 2 parliament, one at national level and one at this province level. They have their own president, and they can decide about their rules and regulation and things like that. So it is a bit different than what we understand state in our country. And if you want to know more about the history of this Catalonia and who used to be the king over there, why we have reached a situation here where Catalonia wants to exit, or it wants to step out of a country called Spain, then there is a special video lecture available on our YouTube channel. It is available both in Hindi and English. And let me give you some highlight about, or some background, you can say, or introduction regarding this part of Catalonia. It has a population of 7.5 million. It is very famous for tourism. As you can see, it is sharing border with this Mediterranean Sea. It is a famous tourist destination for particularly for the people of Europe, and not only Europe but around the world, right? Spain is quite famous. We have seen it in many films, and 1 out of 4 tourists who is arriving in Spain will definitely visit Barcelona or Catalonia portion. It is famous for medical science and industry and sports and tourism, and because of this thing, its economic output is 20%. If it becomes a different country altogether, then you will find it in top 50 big economies, which is not bad at all. Now the basic problem is there are some political issues as well, some historical facts, like the dictator of Spain was a bit heavy hand on this portion, or the people of Catalonia. And the main problem with Catalonia is that after this 2007-8 financial crisis that shook the whole world, particularly USA and Europe, since then the people of Catalonia are demanding that they want to step out of this country, because they are contributing 20% to the GDP of France, right? But when it comes to, you know, you pay taxes, then that taxes or the money is been given back to you by the central government. So you pay, say for example, 100 rupees, and what you get back is say 50 rupees. So this is not a fair deal at all. What they are saying is that we are contributing huge amount of money, and you are using it for some lazy states who are not doing that much work, or who have the capacity but they are not producing those sort of results. So we don't want to pay for someone else. These are some of the basic things that are going on or you can say the reasons behind the demand for this secession. Now there was a snap election in Catalonia, and pro-independence means the parties who are looking or who wants to secede from Spain, they have won. But the sad thing is that the mandate is fractured. Basically, three parties together, they are not one, they are three different parties, but if you add their votes or the seats they have managed to secure, then they have got 70 seats out of 135. So if they band together or stick together, then of course they can rule again in this part of Catalonia. And there is a party semi-autonomous, you can say a party for semi-autonomous Catalonia, so it can stay within the country of Spain, but some sort of freedom will be allowed. So this party has got 37 seats. It is the single largest party to get this many seats, and the person that you can see on your screen here, his name is Carles Pigmont, and he is in exile at present. He was or he is the driving force behind the recent, you can say, rebel that took place in Spain. Then you have here a person, he is a Prime Minister of Spain, who is against the secession of Spain from of Catalonia from Spain. And the way he has handled things is bit, he has used forces, and one thing that I must mention here is that this separatist leaders, right, of Spain, the things they have done, or the whole protest was peaceful. They have not hurt anyone. It was the police and the central government that used force against them. Even if you, at that point of time when this thing was you can say was brewing, at that point of time, all these interviews and the people representing this Catalonia and experts and other people, if you go through their opinions or what the people of Catalonia have to say on this secession, you will find that they have always emphasized that we don't want any sort of violence. This is a peaceful protest. This is our right, and things like that. So when you use this sort of force, then it is of course going to create, it is going to make things a bit more dirty. So now again we have to wait and watch, because a person, vice president, is behind the bars. He may face 30 years in jail because he did a sort of non-violent protest. He basically, because he did protest, he is behind the jail. And this Carles, he is in exile. If he enters Spain or Catalonia, then he is going to face arrest. So in this situation, we cannot say what is going to be the future of Spain and Catalonia, but we have to wait and watch for this thing. Of course, it is the duty of European Union. It stands for democracy, and if this sort of things are being practiced here, then definitely European Union should be worried about this thing, and they should take a stand on this matter. Of course, dialogue is the ultimate thing. It is the ultimate tool that will sort out the problem. But without, you can say, if European Union and other strong countries, if they are not taking a stand, then things are going to be more troublesome. With this, dear friends, this is about taking on gatekeepers. Now CBFC, that is Central Board of Film Certification, many a times, most of the times known as Censor Board, has announced to appoint a 6-member panel that is going to review Padmavati. Now the sad thing is that historians who are going to represent the royal family of Mewar are going to be part of this Padmavati or this panel, and this leads us to a big question, that why we need professional historians to check a piece of entertainment or historical fiction, right? This is really strange, and it also will provide a sort of veto power to the royal family. So is it something hidden behind here, right? Is it government using royal family and their influence for securing votes? It could be possible. Now the censor board, the main job of the censor board, when I'm saying censor board, I am referring to the Central Board of Film Certification. Basically, their job is to issue certificates, right? Whether a film is supposed to be watched by adults only, whether it is fit for adolescents to watch the film or not, But we know in our country, when we talk about going to cinema and watching films, it is part of our culture, and there is nothing wrong with this thing at all, that we go with our family and friends, right? And most of the times we find even kids, right, even babies are crying many a times. I'm sure you might have been annoyed when you see a small infant or a baby is crying in a cinema. Now the thing is, there are many scenes and visuals in many different films that are not fit for adults, and some sort of violence is not at all good for small kids. But this sort of rules and regulations are not followed strictly in our country, right? First thing. The second thing is that the Central Board of Film Certification, as I told you, that their main job is to provide certificates rather than you can say clipping the wings or cutting down some portion from the main film. That is not their purpose at all, or that is something that they are not allowed to do at all, because under the Cinematograph Act we have all the things, guidelines, and we have all the rules and regulations. But what is happening at present here is that this sort of gatekeepers, or you can say these panels, right, rather than CBFC taking decision, and when it is basically giving power to this 6-member panel, then it is indicating that laws, or you can say rules and regulations or guidelines, are taken over by sentimental or people with power. The other thing is that the same thing applied, something similar took place with this film called Jolly LLB 2. Now this is a piece of satire, right? It is making a bit of fun of lawyers, and it is at the end of this film you get a message as well. Now we don't have any sort of laws in our country that you cannot make fun of lawyers. You can make fun of anyone. You can make fun of politicians as well, as far as it is not creating any sort of violence or hate in the society. Satire and things are always have always been part of our country. Now Bombay High Court very strangely appointed a panel of lawyers to see whether this film is making fun of lawyers or not. Imagine this thing, right? And rather than allowing this CBFC to decide on this matter, the Bombay High Court took over this whole institution. So this is something which is not right as well. The other thing is that when we talk about our country, if we go back if we go back in an era where we were not having our constitution, at that point of time it was believed, particularly by this British Raj, that India is not a country of individual, right? India is basically a sort of you can say agglomeration of homogeneous communities. So here more importance was given to communities, but after the introduction of constitution, we know now that individual rights, right, are at its heart, or at the core of our constitution. It is individual. Every single citizen makes a society and finally a country, and anything that is going wrong with any individual is something that is going wrong with all the citizens, you can say. Now Supreme Court as well, on many occasions Supreme Court has behaved unconstitutionally. It has banned a book as well in the past, and strangely Supreme Court came out with it said that there are arts. It has basically tried to define arts. It said that there is good art and bad art, and regarding this Bandit Queen, a very famous movie, right? In this movie you find some scenes that are not fit to be watched by kids. So there are some sort of violent scenes in this movie, and the Supreme Court at that point of time said that this sort of violence is for a social purpose. It indicates or it creates a sort of awareness in our society. So this is a useful art. You should not cut it down from this film. Now the thing is, rather than providing a sort of opinion or taking a stand that India belongs, India is a diverse country and everyone should learn to be a bit more tolerant, right? To be a bit more acceptable. Now you could have different views on different things, right? But let the society decide, because many times what happens is that the things that you feel is wrong today, after a couple of years it could be well accepted. Go back in 90s and early 2000, you find that all these romantic scenes, some of them were opposed by many people, but nowadays we find that you find some sort of scenes in every movie, in every song, which is acceptable nowadays. The other thing is that it also you can say pushes me to think about that why we see this sort of protest on particularly this film called Padmavati. Has it something to do with Hindu versus Muslim mentality, right? We know that Khilji and at that point of time you had this Rajput dynasties ruling in different parts of Rajasthan, and there was a war between both, or there was a power struggle between Rajputs and this Muslim rulers, right? So isn't it all these things part of our society? The other thing is that or a part of our history. The other thing is what would be the scenario if just in case instead of Muslim ruler, if there would have been a Rajput or a Hindu ruler? Or what if there would have been this Padmavati, in case of Padmavati there would have been some other lady belonging to some other community like Muslim community? Would we see same sort of protest? The question is there is something deep down. If you analyze this thing, then you find that behind this veil, behind or in the back office, there is something else is brewing over here. So this sort of things are, of course, government as well as the Supreme Court. We know that they should stand for more tolerant and more open society in which everyone can express their opinion. And art is such a thing that if you define the boundary of art, then you are not going to see something new. Imagine that you tell to Picasso that or you tell to A.R. Rahman to not produce some sort of music, right, because this is not acceptable, or that will hurt someone else, or many songs, and there are many things, right, many poems. Now in future you may find many people coming out with the protest of not dressing this way and not eating that food and that. This is not going to work at all in India. With this, moving on to another item, this is about you can say conflict of interest. Now back in 1990s there was a principal secretary, of course IAS, B.G. Deshmukh. At that point of time he requested the government that after his service post-retirement he would like to work for a private company. The government said that yes, they will give a permission. There are rules and regulation, everything is defined, but the government said that okay, when I say rules and regulation, I mean to say that when it comes to conflict of interest, we don't have proper laws. What is happening is that it will depend on the discretion of the government. So the government will decide whether you can work after post-retirement or not. Now one thing is that if you are in a place of power, then there are high chances that you will be lobbied by many private companies, isn't it? They will try to, because at the end of the day, if you are at higher position, then you can have a direct influence on rules and regulation making. So they will try to push you or lobby you to make those sort of rules that can help them earn more profit. This is something that that can be understood very well, isn't it? Now if we see in the West at that point of time, or in the Western countries, right, then this conflict of interest is seen to be at the root of all the abuses. And in our country as well, we have seen that this conflict of interest is root of all the abuses. Now if we go back in the history, then we find that in England there was a person who is considered, you can say he was one of the biggest reformists of Royal Navy. He was also alleged to have been involved in smuggling and things like that, and we know there are many bureaucrats who are indulging in this sort of things as well. But the thing is introduction of media, free media, and you have this judiciary, independent judiciary, and watchdogs and other things. So because of these things, corruption has weakened considerably, particularly in the Western countries. In our country the things are a bit different here. And post-retirement, if someone wants to join a private sector, then there is nothing wrong with it, because when you have worked 30 plus years as a public or civil servant, then you have gained considerable experience. From a very young age, you have worked at top management, or you have worked at a top position. So the experience that you have can be utilized by the private companies or the private sector, and this can be beneficial for the economy as well. But the thing is, when you don't have defined rules and regulation, what happens is that many a times, even if your case is right, then the government can reject it. So the need of the hour is that we need clearly defined rules and regulation. If there is a cooling off period means that if you once you retire after for 2 years or maybe 5 years, you cannot take any position. After that, you can take position, so that your influence is basically waned away. So clear this cooling off period should be defined, and who will give permission, how you will get permission, this sort of things should be defined as well. And this will be beneficial for it will be a sort of win-win situation for bureaucrats as well as private sector. One more thing, and last one, is that if we have placed if there are watchdogs on private companies or corporate world, you have credit rating agencies and activist shareholders, then why should we not apply the same thing when it comes to governance? We should have watchdogs and credit rating agencies and other activists, right, from society and experts that can give rating to governance. In this way, it will keep the government on its toes. With this, we have many news, so very quickly I will take you through them. One of the most important one on which we will find editorials and articles is about the amendment of bankruptcy law. It will replace ordinance, and basically the bill bars any sort of defaulters, right? Willful defaulters will be barred to take part in auction. You know it very well that this is a thing that you take a loan, you don't pay the loan, so you become willful defaulter. And when the government is or when the banks are auctioning this property of yours, then you take part in it and buy it for half a price or 25%, which is not fair at all. So any sort of this people or companies, they want to be able to take part in this sort of auctions. You can take part in auction only if you have cleared all your dues. So this is something a sort of progressive step. And other items, other details are given here. They are very basic, very easy to understand. This was bit you can say the things that we have discussed here were requiring some sort of explanation. House of Elders, that is Rajya Sabha, is going to think about this jail term of up to 3 years. We have talked about this thing. It was as an editorial. Now we know that this bill, this triple talaq bill, is of course going to protect the rights of women, Muslim women. But what about Muslim men? It is clearly given that written, may it be written in electronic format, this sort of things will not result in a talaq. But the thing is that we don't know whether verbal, if you can see a case that many men will be harassed as well. So it is better that this select committee comes or goes through it and comes out if there is any changes, if just in case if there are any changes that are required. Political situation in Meghalaya is a bit shaky at present. 5 MLAs of Congress, they have resigned from Congress, and we know that next year election is going to take place in these 3 states of Northeast, Meghalaya, Nagaland and Tripura. At present, the Congress is not in a position, or you can say things are fine with Congress, but this can create problems in upcoming election. With this, Robocop has been introduced in Hyderabad, and this Robocop is basically a sort of smart police robot. It can take complaints and record audios and video clips and identify suspects and detect metals and monitor temperature and things like that. This can be utilized for regulating traffic and other sorts of things, right? In future, we may see more upgraded version, more mobile version, or you can say a more friendly and more interactive artificial intelligence included version in future. Good introduction, no doubt. Parliament is going to have a long weekend. After Christmas, we have this New Year session. It is very rare to find Parliament sitting in winter session taking place during this part of the year. Anyways, Friday, Saturday, we have Saturday, Sunday, and so it is going to be off. So good resting point for parliamentarians. Palestine envoy took part in Jamaat Dawa's meeting, and which is strongly condemned by India. Our Ministry of External Affairs has taken this matter with the Palestinian ambassador in New Delhi. India is yet to find a reason for darkening Siang. A special video lecture is available. I have delivered this in both the languages, Hindi and English, a week ago. I would recommend you to go through it. You will know more about this Siang River, Brahmaputra, what we know that importance. We know importance of fresh water, but what are the facts associated with it? You will know many things about this thing. So I reckon you that today is Saturday, tomorrow is Sunday, so you have enough time to go through this video. It is believed that this portion here, this portion here is a desert portion, so China is basically trying to divert the water here. This is alleged. We don't have facts on this thing yet. Sad thing, 10 people died or were killed in a terror attack that took place in Egypt. We have seen that Egypt is under this sort of radical attacks, and a couple of weeks ago Shia community were also killed in Egypt. Taiwan warns China against this military drills that have been conducted by China. China is believing that Taiwan is part of one China. Basically it considers Taiwan as its own state. Well, Taiwan considers itself as an independent country. This is Taiwan here, as you can see here, Taiwan Strait. This part you find Taiwan here, right? This is Taiwan, and you have Taiwan Strait here, East China Sea, South China Sea, Philippine Sea. And one thing that I would like to mention here is that Tropic of Cancer is passing from the country of Taiwan. Government has injected funds in 6 public banks, and IVA Bill, we have talked about this thing a couple of days ago. It was as an editorial and article. IVA basically means that before you send out your goods from your factory, you have to create or register or get an IVA bill or a number from GSTIN and GST network, right? You have to get it a number. You need to carry a number, and this should be given to this transport service, or trucks should have that number as well for your goods. It is believed or bit feared that Inspector Raj will increase because of this thing. And last item, Korean Hapkido, right? It is a sort of martial art. Just keep this thing in mind that it belongs from Korea. It is getting bit famous here in our country. Answer is North America and continental glaciers. With this, dear friends, these are your questions. A rebel of 1857 was killed in the jungles of Nepal. Was Rani Jhansi, Tatia Tope, Kumar Singh, or none of this? Victoria Falls or Victoria Fall is associated with which country? Amazon, Missouri, St. Lawrence, or Zambezi? And the quorum of parliament is fixed at 1/10, 2/3, 1/3, or 1/8. With this, dear friends, I end this discussion, right? I will see you all soon, tomorrow, Sunday. And make sure you download this file from my Facebook page, as well as you will get it from our Telegram channel. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, share this lecture with other people as well, and check out StudyIQ.com for our pen, tab, and tablet courses. I will see you all soon. Enjoy your studies, enjoy your weekend. Jai Hind.